Hello and welcome to the latest edition of It's Your Time You're Wasting with the indefatigable David Dido
David Dido, that's me.
and me,
And
Martin
you,
Collins.
and Martin. Martin, how are you? Right, okay, so we're going to be talking about the latest controversy to rock the teaching world, and it's to do with a celebrity I'd not heard of before this. Martin will give us a bit of backstory on Gemma Collins. So schools, obviously, no shortage of problems right now. There's a lot to work out with what's happening with reforms to SEND, where there's a recruitment crisis. There's new Ofsted regulations that schools are scrambling to get in front of. We've got behaviour still very challenging. We've got V levels being introduced, and we've got a new curriculum in the first stages of being put together. Perhaps most starkly, Martin, is the problem with children's attendance. Apparently, Martin, nearly 1 in 5 pupils in England is currently persistently absent. I think it's 17.92% of children are persistently absent. That means about 1.5 million children are missing at least 10% of school sessions. And on top of that, concealed in that, there's 170,000 children in England who missed at least half of their lessons last year. So when the Department of Education releases a teaser clip of Gemma Collins walking into sanctuary buildings and asking, what are we going to do to help the children? Is it funny? Well, it is funny perhaps, but it's also quite revealing. Because the question isn't the wrong one. The problem, I don't know, what you think, Martin, is the problem that it's her asking it, or is it the problem that the DfE is asking her?
Should we have a look at one of the clips? There were 3 or 4 that came out one after the other yesterday, causing sort of more and more irate comments from various people on social media. But let's have a look at one of them.
Make sure, honeys, that whatever you're going to be learning, you concentrate, because you're going to be taking it into your future career. And one day, kids, this could be you. I hope this will help people to be ambitious. I didn't even get a grade in maths because I found it so panicky and so stressful. Part of that was not believing in myself. All that pie over sky or wherever it is, you probably know. You've got a building looking over Parliament.
So some of what we've been trying to do is to make sure we've got really great routes for young people who want to go down the technical, vocational route, want to get into a trade, as well as having really good academic options as well.
So everyone's got to remember there's always an opportunity out there for everyone. You better,
As well as having really...
There it is.
There it is. We haven't got the first one, but it features Gemma coming out of a lift and sort of rubbing her hands and going, what are we all doing in here to help the children? And there's people working at their desks and doing things potentially to help children, who knows? And Bridget Phillipson pops her head out of her office and says, come on in, let's have a chat. And then this is the chat. Do you think it will help children to be ambitious, Martin?
Well, I think you've got to think of all sorts of things here.
Okay.
It's not just about Gemma Collins, is it? There's the all the figures you've mentioned and everything else you've said is the issue that people are trying to address. The other issue is, who is this message for? And it's being put out on social media rather than on TV and in the newspapers. She's not writing an article in the Telegraph. Who is she trying to reach? Well, she might be trying to reach the people whose main diet of news is actually social media, which is younger people. And obviously,
maybe
edu-tweeters, or edu-Twitter as it used to be called, edu-Xers, I don't know, who found themselves irate. Have you got some of the reactions from teachers?
Oh, I have. Well, not just teachers. So it seems to be one of those rare occasions that really brings the community together in this time, unfortunately, in their condemnation of the DfE. So we've got, I'll just give you a little taste of some of these. So Daniel Kabedi from the NEU says an unfunded 3.3% pay award for support staff and 3.5% for teachers will leave mainstream mainstream schools with a £370 million deficit. But don't worry, the DfE has brought in TOWIE stars to save the day. There's a guy called Fat Bald Bloke who says she's only there for the free breakfast. I don't know what that's referring to. Adam Boxer, Education's Adam Boxer, says, what the fresh hell is this? Sandy Tregence says, Gemma Collins, Labour's new face of the free breakfast clubs, a full English or free every day. Lots of focus on breakfast here. What else have we got? Caroline Farrow, this is the government's response to worn out and desperate parents of children with special needs, ? Bridget Phillipson should apologise and resign. Beg Graham, who in Labour's media team is signing off on this stuff? Fair question. The country's struggling schools are under pressure and their big idea is rolling out Gemma Collins for a government promo with Bridget Phillipson. It feels completely detached from reality, more like a reality TV programme. We've got someone here saying, fuck me dead, this is horrendous. My word, this is patronising, if not crass. Nothing says dying days of a spent administration quite like this. You need to stop pretending the world is TikTok and bloody well grow up. Someone's saying, what in the Ricky Gervais is going on here then? Don't really know what that means. And all sorts of other stuff. This is either a joke, April Fool's Day, or their account's been hacked. The only person that I can find here you go, Kirsty Allsop saying, hands up if this was on your 2026 bingo card. And this next one's representative of quite a few of the comments. Did she do this for free or am I paying this? Various other people saying we need to do the FOI on this and see what her fee was. So, and then there's also, and I guess this speaks to the sort of people making snide breakfast remarks. There are quite a few commenters saying who are upset at Gemma Collins being obese, and that being apparently relevant. So there we go.
Yeah. So we've got a range of comments there.
You'll be surprised to hear that Swella Braverman doesn't like it.
I'm not surprised at all. What's her comment? She's the education spokesman for reform.
For reform, yeah. So teachers on strike during exams, send crisis due to botched reforms, falling primary school teachers, pupil assaults on staff rising, highest numbers of NEETs in a decade. But let's ignore all that and get a celeb in to look cool online. I don't know if anyone's looking cool, but if anyone is looking cool,
let's just talk about the actual vid itself. I think it's quite well done in the quality, not only of, just on itself. Let's forget about the education side to it and who's involved. I think also Bridget Phillipson is very, very good on it. And
do you?
Yes, I do. And not only from the point of view of being media trained, she is, of course, an actress. She was on Biker Grove with Anton Deck back in the day. So
it's paid off.
So it's paid off very, very well. And she comes across well in front of camera, which when you compare her to the Prime Minister, perhaps is a welcome change.
I thought she looked slightly as if, slightly sort of very embarrassed by all this, but trying to cover it up.
I thought not, but
there was a bit of a rabbit in the headlights, sort of.
You thought so? Well, we could argue about that till the cows come home.
Yeah. Well, it's an interesting take, Martin. It looked like it didn't. To me, my take was it didn't look like she thought down and said, "I'd like to do this." That someone had convinced her to do it, and she'd gone along with it.
I wonder.
So, look, let me ask you, because I know you know a lot more about this than I do. Who the hell is Gemma Collins? I've literally never heard of her before any of this kerfuffle.
I'm surprised. You obviously, there's me going to...
Very highbrow, Martin.
There's me going to watch Peter Grimes at the Royal Opera House last Friday. And here's you not knowing anything about Gemma Collins and me being an expert on her. I used to teach in the Essex Borders, so I had a sort of way into the set that sort of hung around, let's say, London Borough, Redbridge, come the Essex side, Havering, and places like Collier Row, which is where I believe she used to live. She now lives in a rather swish barn conversion in darkest Essex, somewhere near Chelmsford, I think, something like that. She's a self-made woman. Has done very well from failing her exams and doing badly at school. And she did, like people said, the Towie quote, I think, from Daniel Kabedi from the NEU, talking about Towie, the only way is Essex, where she actually met and had a relationship with one of my ex-pupils, James Argent, who was also doing rather well, or did rather well. I think he obviously went through some tough times, having to go through rehab and things like that. And I think Gemma herself has also sort of sold herself somewhere on, with her mental health struggles and things like that. So
really?
She has self-harmed since the age of 12, I believe, and has shared about that and did a program for the BBC about that. So I think there's a genuine side to her about wanting to say, let's do some good in this world. I think her first job from leaving school was a car salesperson. And I think she has come across, in terms of her own, she's got a brand. I think she's got a clothing and perfume brand, usual sort of stuff with some celebs that do
maybe
these sorts of things.
Some soft drinks.
And she's done very well out of it. So, and she's gone on other sort of reality shows like The Jungle thing, I think she did, and also Big Brother, perhaps just Big Brother, I don't know. But she's done very well. So clearly, and this is important, there's a brain there. She's not stupid, but she comes across, and a lot of people on The Only Way is Essex, whether it be Arj, the chap I was talking about, or Joey Essex, sort of sold this idea of the Essex stupidity, but the sort of wise, streetwise sort of idea. And to me, and this might be slightly controversial, some of the comments I've been reading have been about her being stupid and about her
fat.
not being the sort of thing that an education department should sell. But actually, it might be she's a symptom, if you like, of the society which has, as we said, 17% of people not regularly attending school, a huge tale of underachievement that this country produces every year. What do we do for those who don't succeed at school? And how do we reach them and encourage them somewhere along the line, either to do better at school or to try and change school in a way that actually serves their needs better?
Right. Okay, well, we'll get into that in a moment. This might surprise people if they don't remember it, but it reminds me, or there's at least some precedent for this. So you may or may not remember or know that back in 2011, Michael Gove made a speech in which he referenced Jade Goody. He didn't get her into the DfE, as far as I know. But he said in this speech that two particular individuals have influenced me more than any others: the Italian Marxist thinker, Antonio Gramsci, and the reality TV star Jade Goody. And he went on, I don't know if you'll permit me, he went on to say, he said, "Let me explain my admiration for Jade first. Jade was regarded as a paragon of invincible ignorance," which is a lovely epithet there. "She was derided and mocked because she thought that Cambridge was in London. On being told that Cambridge is in East Anglia, she assumed that to be abroad and referred to it as East Anglia. It seemed to me at the time, and it seems to me now, a sort of double cruelty to have mocked Jade for these errors. Deriving entertainment from another's misfortune is wrong in itself. Her lack of knowledge was not her fault, but the education system's, because there was no doubt," and as you're saying about Gemma Collins, "there's no doubt that Jade was intelligent." And he goes on to talk about the fact that, she spent her money, especially when she found she was dying, on making sure her children went to private school,
got the
and all this
education
sort of
she
stuff. And
wasn't able to.
Yeah, exactly. And you know, I don't know anything about Gemma Collins particularly, except that, you know, you've told me that she was on Towie, which I regret to say I've never watched. I know. But I did watch Big Brother back in the day, and I do remember Jade on that, and she was a figure of fun nationally, and she was an interesting component for Michael Gove in particular to have in a speech to help make his points, his critique on the education that had gone before.
That he's making there about Goody, and also the fact that she's paying for an education for her children, a more sort of classical liberal education perhaps for her children, is the idea that the knowledge curriculum that then he brought in, knowledge rich, he and Gibb brought in, is there and suitable for everyone.
Yeah.
Now, the evidence might point to it's not. And whether that's because of the school system itself or whatever, there are kids who our system fails, always has done, for a very long time, and it has to, in terms of exams, it has to fail them because it has to have standards, and it's built on that premise that some will fail. And the trouble is, one thing our education system is not cut out for is then what to do with those who fail, what to offer them. And generally, over the years, what we've offered them is obviously not to the same standards as anything else. Now, there's other comments about Gemma Collins. A lot of people who describe themselves as having ADHD say she's ADHD or she's autistic or both. Now, Gemma Collins has never said that. She's never, as far as I know, come out and said she is. So she's not identified herself or got a some sort of diagnosis saying that, as far as I'm aware. But other people are saying that, the way she suddenly goes off on one and flits around and various other things. Now, there are people who have special needs that we've talked about, that Bridget Phillipson was announcing earlier in the week, their new SEN ideas, that do fail the system, but there are other people who fail it because it's not for them, not through special needs, but just through complete and utter, it's not for me, it's not my thing, for whatever reason. Perhaps it's their background, perhaps it's the experiences they've had, perhaps it's other things. But what to do with kids who don't fail, who aren't going to get their GCSEs? Now, this is why they're bringing in a thing called V levels.
Well, let me just insert before you get into talking about V levels, which I think is a really important and valid thing to do. So, I was one of those kids. I fucked about at school. I didn't get my maths GCSE either. I'm not one to criticise Gemma Collins for not getting the pie in the sky stuff. Although you talk about the production quality of the videos, I was particularly alarmed by the graphic that came up there, all of those mathematical symbols to sort of illustrate that maths is really hard, isn't it? Especially for girls. I think there's something... I
think you're reading something into that, but anyway, carry on.
Well,
because Bridget Phillipson was there. She's a girl as well, and she got her maths GCSE and did very, very well. Also from a poor background. Also from a very poor background.
Fine. So school wasn't for me. I couldn't be bothered. I wasn't interested in it. I left school with very few qualifications. Now, I don't think saying "look at me now" is a great argument, because look at me now. But you know, I've written books and sort of make my living, such as it is, through my wit, again, such as it is, and and now work in education and take it pretty seriously and think deeply about the issues that I experienced as a school student and the fact that I don't want that to be anyone else's experience. And so before we say, oh, the curriculum reforms introduced by Gibb and Gove have failed,
No.
lots and lots of people. And we've talked before about the problems inherent in GCSEs, and I think we've got a whole video on that. We can probably link to it for those for them as might have missed it. It was a good one, as I recall, if the danger is if we say we're going to provide something else for some kids, we create a self-fulfilling prophecy.
Yeah, and this is always it. But there is, you say about the things they brought in as though the curriculum, and people do actually say that there are issues with the curriculum, actually, because
sure, yeah.
And certainly, and I think we talked about this, D&T and the arts and things like that, being sidelined. So there are things which I think they introduce which certainly haven't succeeded or can never succeed because they are denigrating certain subjects. What is the problem? And this is the societal problem, is that we got to a point where we want to get 50% of people to university. And now we're saying, actually, we need to rebuild the industrial section and get people apprenticeships and et cetera, et cetera. So we seem to be always chasing something that's over the hill somewhere, like the grass is always greener somewhere. Yeah. And we're not actually creating an education system that succeeds in giving something to everyone. Not everyone is going to get a maths GCSE because, and I mean grade 4 or above. Let's hasten that, because that is what they're talking about here, the grade 4 or above. And certainly not straight away at 16. And if you put that around the whole sort of employment and everything else, that you're expecting everyone to get a certain level of qualification and then they can be employed, and then not giving them the tools to get that qualification, or not giving them the qualification that actually measures the things that employers perhaps want. And that's another thing. Do employers want, for instance, in the English side of it, do they want someone who can read Shakespeare or someone who can read bills and who can file or whatever? Though whether these jobs stay in the world of AI is another thing altogether. But V
levels are the latest attempts to do something about that. So everyone, I'm assuming everyone knows what A levels are. T levels introduced a couple of years ago. Do you know technical levels?
Yeah, we've got a whole history of this, haven't we? We've got BTECs as well, of course.
Oh, I know. BTECs, HNDs.
Yeah.
All of this stuff. Yeah.
This is a problem they keep trying to solve.
So T levels, they're big blocks. I think they're equivalent, or meant to be equivalent to 3 A levels, and they're linked into entry into a specific occupational area. V levels, what's the difference here? They're going to be introduced in September 27, so soon. What's the difference next year? What's the difference?
I think that instead of T levels, I think it's to open up a qualification that's not for people who are aiming towards a certain career. That makes them able to surf the jobs market as and when they wish to, as and when they need to, in a realistic sense, that they are work ready, but not saying that this work has got to be nursing or technical work or engineering or whatever it happens to be.
So there'll be a V level in digital. I think there's going to be one in education, early years finance, various things like that. Right.
And so it does sort of narrow it to some extent. There's also a thing, I think, about GCSEs, that getting people who haven't passed their GCSE, and I'm saying passed again, grade 4 or
Yeah.
above,
Yeah.
GCSE in English or maths, that they get to retake these. I thought there was another qualification coming out in English and maths they were talking about, which I'm all for, by the way. One that I think could be taken at any time from the age of 11 upwards, perhaps, when people are ready, like a driving test. When you're ready to take it. That is a skills level test, and that could replace the need for some people having to get through GCSEs that they're struggling to pass for whatever reason. Now, the trouble is, and this is what you're going to get, and this is what happens, it's dumbing down.
Right. Well, you say that. So my understanding is that, let's say I've finished my GCSEs and I'm looking to go to college. I could take an A level in maths and one in business studies, and then take a V level in finance, or I could do an A level in English and one in psychology, and then a V level in education, or something like that.
Yeah,
I can mix and match.
A mix and match. Yeah, so they're the equivalent of one A level, I think. Is that right?
Yeah.
One level 3. One level 3 qualification.
Yeah,
whereas
level
T levels are 2.
Yeah.
T levels are 2, I believe.
Three.
They're 3, like BTECs were, or some BTECs were, I think.
Yeah, they're meant to be equivalent to 3 A levels. Yeah.
Right. Okay. Yeah. And
So,
and also a lot of these qualifications, of course, and I think this is the age-old problem, are not actually that practical.
what do you mean?
Well, a lot of them are about. I mean, certainly what happened to DT and we had this discussion a few times ago.
So
when
you don't
instead
mean
of making things, you're actually writing about making things.
You don't mean the qualification itself is impractical?
No. I mean, sorry. The work itself tends to be a lot of evidencing what you've done rather than doing what you've done, so to speak, or trusting the element of doing things enough, the reporting of having done things, and whether they can actually escape that need for, endless reporting and diary writing and portfolio collecting and all this stuff.
Martin, BTECs are still around. They're still current.
Yes.
Do a BTEC.
And
I think
it's
the plan is that D levels will ultimately replace them, but not anytime soon.
Well, we don't know. I mean, the way I think it, because this is again one about whether it has traction with the employers. Employers
always
are going to look at a V level. What the hell's that? Well, is it like a BTEC? Is it like a T level? Is it like an A level? Is it like an O level? O level, remember those? Is it like a GCSE? Is it like a CSE? I mean, we've got so many things in the mix. IB, we've got so many things in the mix. And how do they translate across? You have to say this is equal to this, but do you believe it? And what does it matter in the end? I mean, this is why some companies actually dropped out of worrying about A levels and qualifications. I mean, I think the financial sector in the City of London, a lot of companies sort of bombed out. We just want good people. Let's take them on, on what they've done in their lives and interview, and whether and looking for quirky, interesting, difficult people who perhaps can offer something new.
Do you remember
searching for them, going to schools that don't often necessarily bring people out? So there was the whole thing. Didn't we attend something about that years ago? Do you remember?
Maybe. Do you remember the DfE putting out a call for quirky people?
Well, that was Dominic Cummings, yes, who ended up with Andrew Sabisky, who lasted a few weeks. I remember, as did Dominic Cummings, of course.
Yeah, exactly. So as always, and we talked about this before as well, that the qualifications are a proxy for, they signal something to decision makers, to employers or further education. They signal something about your cognitive capacity. They signal something about your perseverance, the fact that you can stick with something to the point where you can achieve the qualification. And I think they also signal something about the level to which you're integrated into society. How much of an outsider or an insider are you? So the thing with these V levels.
So hang on, inside or outside? We just talked about quirky individuals and things like that.
Yeah, I know.
We're talking about those who perhaps are rather dull, and those who are a bit more interesting. Are you talking about those who sort of
I'm not
subservient to the overall?
I couldn't possibly comment. So you're right. So do employers understand what V levels are? Well, they don't, because they're not even out yet. So they don't. Will they? Eventually, eventually they will. There was a lot of when GCSEs went from grades to 1 to 9. There was a lot of like, will employers even understand that? Of course they will. They're not idiots. Of course they will. Are they? So funding is going to be important with these with new qualifications. Who's going to teach them? So our colleges, which is a massively under-resourced sector. FE colleges are absolutely, if you think the rest of education's in a bad place, FE colleges are absolutely on their knees.
And historically have been so as well compared to schools.
They're the absolute poor relation. Just simple things like schools obviously don't have to pay VAT. FE colleges do. It's extraordinary. Doesn't make any sense. Anyway, I'm sure there's a very, very good reason for that, which a listener can get into, or a subscriber even, Martin, someone who likes and subscribes. You can put the graphic on.
I can put the graphic up and do that.
In a moment. How are they going to be assessed? I'm sure, are they going to lead to any actual progression? So there might be a good idea. And I think there's an attraction to smaller mix and match qualifications than the huge edifice of the T level.
Yeah.
But if they're just BTECs in fancy dress, they're no kind of solution.
Well, I think we should
sort of
keep an open mind.
Alphabet salad, isn't it?
Open mind till we actually see what they actually
for sure.
day-to-day.
What are the problem? What problem is V levels trying to solve?
I think that this whole thing about the number of NEETs in the country, the number of people who aren't attending school regularly, we started off with that figure, 17.5%. So there is, and the historical, level of underachievement in the country, particularly from certain communities. And this is a problem which goes back. Yeah. So if you come from a family in which your parents failed and you failed, your brothers, sisters failed. I mean, it goes on and on. And if you live in that, you're less likely to do well. Some people, though, have come from there and done extremely, extremely well, including perhaps Bridget Phillipson herself. So,
Bridget, Gemma, Jade Goody, all of the greats.
Daisy Christodoulou came from a tough.
Wes Streeting.
Wes Streeting, yeah, absolutely. I mean, actually, Wes Streeting, and Angela Rayner. They're two autobiographies to read. They're such a wonderful insight into a different time and a different world. Where people. I think it was Wes's grandmother who gave birth to his mother in handcuffs because she was in prison at the time and things like that.
You have to pay for that these days.
And on that note, no, but the thing is. And this is what's interesting about it. Why are we talking about this? Because Gemma Collins did that video. Well, it's got people talking. Isn't that what it's about? Whether it's taken in a bad way or a good way, at least we're talking about something which in the end perhaps opens the way to awareness about V levels. And so isn't that how social media works? Click on this, have a go at it. The more people have a go at it, and the more people look at it, the more it gets, the algorithm repeats it, etc., etc., etc. And then some 2%, 3% awareness that V levels might be a thing of that.
So
isn't that what it's about? Rather than an article that no one reads in the Daily Telegraph.
Yeah, maybe it is. And maybe that's the attempt, and maybe that's the idea. I don't think anyone's talking about V levels except us. I think most of the people talking about this are talking about the fact that they think it's shit.
Yeah, but it's just about awareness. That shit.
Yeah, but awareness
shit,
of what?
Everything's shit.
Awareness of the DfE being rubbish is not something that the DfE was surely hoping for.
But if it put out there something, just Bridget on her own talking about V levels, no one would have taken the blindest bit of notice.
Is there a celebrity that might have been a better choice than Gemma Collins?
Russell Brand.
No. Russell Brand. The obvious choice. Yeah, of course. Why didn't I think
He
of
could be
Russell?
there looking through his Bible, looking desperately for the quote.
For the V
and then,
levels.
I found it. It's a V level. Or something like that.
Perfect. Yeah, no, it writes itself, doesn't it?
On that note, thank you,
well,
everyone.
Thanks ever so much. That was
listening.
short and sweet.
Take care.
See you next time.
Bye-bye.